Hello everybody, welcome back. AG Sports coming back with you today, bringing some more stats, some info. Fortunately not really a lot of picks today. This is going to be more general football information, but things that I think you need to know for betting, as well as maybe some fantasy stuff in there. And I'm going to give you some trends. So while I'm not giving you picks today, I think the trends are going to set you up for the long term. You're going to find better spots. You're going to know what to look for, be more efficient, and spend your money a little bit more wisely after we get into some of these trends. So first thing I want to go over today, and I know the Broncos are on your screen. Yes, we will get into the Broncos. I'm going to cover some things that have changed for them this year. But before we even start into the teams, let me give you the trends. So first of all, this year is a little bit different, and the fact that we have a built-in bye week before week 1. So usually, except for last year, of course, it was always preseason, and then it immediately went into the NFL season, the regular season, with no bye weeks, no time off, no nothing. It was just, let's get going and go ahead and start the next game. This year, we do have the bye week, and while it's good for coaching, as far as like being able to cut people and really organize your roster and make sure you have enough time to get everything situated, and it's probably even good for like COVID protocols, make sure that there isn't any outbreaks before teams are getting in contact with each other and playing out starters and going full speed. And it's even better for like planning, the trips and all that kind of stuff, like the travel. It's terrible for fans. I hate it. I can't stand not having football this week. I know it's just 1 week. It's a mental thing. I can't get over it. I'm gonna have to settle for college football, and even college football this week is like preseason, right? College preseason. But anyways, enough of me. The emphasis I wanted to put on this bye week is that it really is going to call into question the coaching of each individual team, as well as the health of each team going into week 1. So usually with no bye week, it does, obviously coaching is always an issue, but some of that can be overlooked or maybe overcome some obstacles just with straight talent. If you just have better players than the other team, you do have a chance to win. The problem with the NFL is that for the most part, every team is very talented. It's very rare that you come across a team that just looks like they have no business being in the NFL. Every team has money. Every owner has money. Every team has GMs and scouts and everything. They get paid to do their jobs. And so for the most part, the talent is pretty equal across the board, except for maybe like the Texans. And that's because it looks like they're actively trying to tank. But for the rest of the teams, when you have a bye week, how does the coach use that bye week? And so you may not know this, but going back the last 3 or 4 years, having a bye week has actually been a somewhat of a negative when it comes to actually winning games and covering spreads. So, and I apologize, I could not find the exact number, but I know over the last couple of years, one of the biggest reasons or times to fade a team is actually when they are playing at home after their bye week. And so the first person to bring that to my attention, as always, was Mr. Warren Sharp. And he brought up some good reasons behind it. So on a bye week, because of the new player agreement, players are not in the office. And they really can't be very much, if at all. So if they're not in the office, they're not working out, they're most likely not going over their playbook, they're not watching film. They are trying to get as far away from football as they can for that entire week, which includes their own team and their own playbook. Maybe they're, meeting up with their teammates or whatever, but it's not a football discussion. And so when they come back from that week off, think about yourself. What happens when you come back from vacation at work, or if you were in school, what happens after your summer vacation to school? That first week back is always a little not rocky, but a little slow. You're not going full speed. You're still kind of coming off your hangover. And so it's not as efficient as it should be. And so it takes them some time to get by. Now, when they are traveling, meaning that you have to get on a plane or get on a bus or whatever you're doing, and you have to go somewhere, it becomes a little more official. Now it's an actual work trip. Everybody's together. You are not getting away from your coaches. You're not getting away from your teammates. This is full-on work mode. So you can kind of overcome the obstacle of that bye week with the travel time. But when you play at home, you're going home after practice, you're getting away from your team, you're getting away from the facilities, you're getting away from your coach. You're not really focused on football 100% of the time. So you're still maybe on a little bit of that vacation slump. And then it comes time to play Sunday. And again, you're just kind of getting out of your own bed and going through the motions and going a little bit slower. And so for those reasons, a big spot to fade a team is when they play at home after a bye week. Secondly, though, the coach is going to impact that. So some coaches are really, really good after bye weeks. Guys like Andy Reid, guys like Bill Belichick, they have these crazy good records after bye weeks. And so anytime you give them that extra time to prepare, while the team may or may not be doing what they should be doing, the coach is working in the lab the entire time. He's trying to get better. He's trying to set up his guys the best that he can. He's putting them in the best situations. And even if the guys come back and they're not in full-on football mode for the first 2 or 3 or 4 days, the fact that he has planned and prepared and scripted these things so well means that they have the best chance possible to overcome these obstacles. So this week or this year, while we're in the bye week right now, which coaches do we think are going to be really good coming out of this bye week? So some of the ones that you should already know are Andy Reid, Bill Belichick. I personally think Matt LaFleur is going to probably come out of this pretty well. And he's not been a head coach before, but the scripting was usually pretty good from the Titans after their bye week last year, and I think a lot of that goes to Arthur Smith. So I could see the Falcons taking advantage of this bye week. But those are the ones I know off the top of my head, the guys that I'm really looking at. One coach that I actually like off of bye week, but he just has conflicting issues right now, is Frank Reich. He's really, really good off of bye weeks, but it's the beginning of the season. He's really slow to start most seasons. And this year he has so many obstacles to overcome. Not just Carson Wentz, who was injured, then came back, then had COVID. He also has the left guard issue, dealing with a foot issue. He's got T.Y. Hilton dealing with a neck issue. He's got all sorts of issues all over the place. You have Sean Payton, who's also usually pretty good after a bye week, but he's having to deal with not being able to play in New Orleans, trying to work around this hurricane that impacted Louisiana. Prayers out to you guys. I know football's probably the last thing on your mind right now, but without being able to practice there, that whole team is going to kind of take a hit. And they're not expected to be home until, I believe, week 9 or week 8. So that's also going to be a little hard to overcome. So I just want you to think about that. I wanted to bring that to your attention as far as coaches and how good they can be during this bye week. And let's see which ones of them actually take advantage of this time off. Aside from coaching, though, health is another thing. As we're getting closer to this regular season, and the lines are already moving, guys, so if you have not placed bets and there's something you feel really strongly about, I would implore you to go out and grab those lines right now, because as they get closer to kickoff, they're going to probably shift, and if you and maybe some of your friends or people that you know are all leaning the same way, odds are general public is going the same way, and you're not going to get, the line should not and probably won't be as good as it is now in several days from now or even maybe tomorrow. But the health, look at your injury reports. Take a look at it. And I don't mean just the quarterback, not just the receivers. I mean, really look through the list here, because there's some teams like the Colts who have a left guard injured, a left tackle who went down already with an Achilles tear, that, you know, have a T.Y. Hilton messed up with a neck issue. They have injuries all over the place. And so some of these things, since they are not big stars, don't get a lot of attention, but they are things that are going to impact that team. So look through it, whatever team you like. One of the things you should do before placing the bet, maybe it's the first thing, maybe it's the last thing. I know for me, I tend to do this kind of by midway through my handicapping process. Look at the injury report. Make sure that you're not betting on a team that's playing with a lot of backups or a lot of guys you need to, change or kind of account for. On that note, though, I did want to bring up the Madden ratings and the algorithm that was created earlier in this offseason and that we've been using. Some people have asked, what about injuries? What about cuts? Things like that. Because if you are familiar with it, and if you're not, you should probably go back and watch the algorithm video. It's in the show page. The Madden algorithm goes off of rating systems, obviously from the Madden game. But what happens is, if a player is injured, you would have to put in the next best player. So you would literally take out their rating from the algorithm and plug in the next person up and their rating system. Now, what about a cut? And this is very important because it came up with the Patriots. When they cut Cam Newton, Mac Jones' rating was lower than Cam Newton. So do you just simply plug him in there? Or what do you do exactly? Because it's not an injury. Well, the way that the algorithm is created states that you do not just put in Mac Jones' rating because of the cut. Instead, you leave the rating alone, because the mentality behind that is saying Mac Jones was at least as good as Cam Newton if he took over his job, meaning that the ratings that were first put out were not correct. Those were incorrect. So we should leave Cam Newton's rating there and use that as our baseline, because Mac Jones is at least that good. So if there is a cut that comes up, or if somewhere down the depth chart guys are being interchanged, you don't need to go and change each and every one because they're being subbed in and out. You're going to leave the highest rating there, barring injury. Injury should be the only time that you're going to the next person up. So, like I said, if you haven't already watched that video and you're not familiar with the Madden rating system or the Madden algorithm that we're using, go back, watch that video. It's a little bit of a lengthier video, but if you can learn how to put the algorithm together, I guarantee you it will not only give you some good picks, but it will lead you in the right direction, and it's a great way to start your handicapping process and to start building your own algorithms. Next, so let's go ahead and get into some stats and some trends. So, halftime leads, guys. Halftime leads are very important. They're very crucial. And for us, which smaller guys here, we're not big syndicates, or at least I'm not, and we're not betting hundreds of thousands of dollars a week, one of the best things you can do is live bet if you're good at it. Just like they told Krusty the Clown, right? Betting is the best thing a man can do if he's good at it. When you bet live action, there's a couple tips here, but one of them is don't bet right in the middle of a game. Don't bet right before a play goes off, or you're just watching the game and you're like nonchalantly making bets. Wait for a commercial break, or wait for halftime. Wait for the end of a quarter, because what will happen is the casino, the book, whatever you're using, they have usually at least a 3 or 4 or 5 second head start above you. Their connection to watching that game is faster than yours, so they're like a play ahead of you. So if you're seeing the numbers change as you're trying to bet, it's because they're ahead of you. They know what's going on. They know what's about to happen. So that's why you want to wait for that commercial, because when the commercial is going on, you should have at least that 5 second gap to kind of counteract that time and be able to place the bet where it's not changing and where somebody didn't get injured on the next play and you haven't seen it yet. But at halftime, like I said, is probably your best time to make these bets, because you have kind of a feel for the game. But what about money lines? What about when a team is winning at halftime and maybe they were underdogs before and now it's like a pick 'em, or now they're maybe like a slight favorite? What should we do in that case? Well, statistically, if teams have a 1 to 3 point lead, so basically a field goal or less of a lead at halftime, their win rate, straight up win rate, is 62%. So if there is a team that's leading by 1 and you can get the money line, at even money or better, or you can get like a -1 at money at a -110 or whatever, that's fine. That's a perfect bet. It's above 52%. The win rate, the expected win rate, is 62%. So be aware of that. If they're up by 1 to 3 points, whether they were a dog or not before, they go into halftime up at least 1, you have at least a 62% win rate. Now, if they are ahead by 1 score or more, so 7 points or more, what's their win rate at that point? A team that is up by 7 points or more at halftime has a win rate of 71%. So same thing, and this would be really more in the case of a team being a dog. So if a team goes in, like let's say the Browns, week 1, and they're playing the Chiefs, they're 6.5 point dogs. Let's say they go into the half and they're up a touchdown. Especially if it's the Chiefs, they're probably not. They might still not be the favorite. It might still be like Chiefs -1 or a pick'em, or if they are a favorite, it might be like Browns -1. In that case, you would want to take the Browns, and because you're getting this amazing win rate, even if you don't win that game in particular, you should be winning about 70% of those, 71% of the time specifically. So even if you don't win each and every one, at the end of the year, you're going to come out ahead. So those are some tips I wanted to bring up as far as live betting and just trends with those. Now, next thing I want to bring up here, and it's something that I see a lot, not just in my videos or my comment sections, but just like on Twitter, other YouTube handicappers, things like that. I see a lot of people want to put Moneyline bets out there, and they want to do parlay bets with these money lines. I tell you why I don't like them. The Moneyline bets are so huge. They have such huge juice to them that it makes it hard to win. So I'm going to show you a few right now just so you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So let's say you think the Buccaneers, the Bills, and the 49ers are going to win, right? You're thinking Buccaneers are definitely going to win. Dak hasn't played in forever. The Bills should win. They have a high-powered offense. Whatever your reason, it doesn't matter. But you don't want to trust the points. You think it's too much. You think that the spread is off. So you said, you know what? I'm just going to use a money line, right? I think that the money line is my best way to go. Okay, well, you have to pay $3.25 for the Bucks, right? And then you're going to have to pay another, well, let me go down to the 49ers first. They're going to be $3.45. So you had to pay $3.45 to take the 49ers on the money line. This is based off of $100 unit size. And then you're going to have to bet another $271 on the Bills. So you're betting a total of $941 to win $300. That's effectively, well, it's more than minus 300. Let's just call it a minus 300 bet. So you're betting these huge favorites, right? Well, let's see what happens here. So you're trying to win $300, right? Well, let's say that one of these teams loses. And just for the sake of argument, let's say that it's the Bills, right? And they were probably your shortest line favorite, meaning that they were the one who was maybe the most likely to lose out of these three. But let's say that you lose that one. So you lost the Bills. So now you're down, you're negative $271, right? So let's say the Buccaneers win and the 49ers win, and you covered both of those, and you got your $200 back for the $100 for each team. You're still negative $71. So you still lost money. Even though you had a winning weekend, even though you went 2-1, you still lost money. That's why I don't like taking these moneyline bets. Some people love them, and they feel safer with them. And I promise you, I mean, yes, it is safer, I guess, if you really think that team is just going to win. But these spreads are so accurate. They are so, down to the point. They're combed through, each and every day for several days. The people working in Vegas or at these books, they know their shit. They're not just somebody that came off the corner. They're not just somebody taking directions. The line makers are line makers for reasons. This is what they do. So if you look at the line and you think it's too much or not enough, take the line, because I'm telling you, they're going to be pretty accurate. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it's very rare that you take a minus 10 and it ends up being a 1 point game or a 2 point game. Usually what happens if there's an upset, it's a full on upset. And I remember not too long ago, so maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the Vikings were huge favorites. They were 21 point favorites. I don't even remember who. I think it was against the Jags or the Lions, or I don't remember. I just remember they were huge favorites, 3 touchdown favorites, and everybody was betting the mortgage on the Vikings, and people were betting straight money line. They thought 21 was way too much, but let me take the money line. I'm sure they're gonna win. I don't know if they'll cover by 30 points or whatever, but they're gonna win. Guess what happened? They just flat out lost. And so people, instead of losing, $100 or whatever that they could have gotten on the spread line, they ended up losing minus 500. So think about that, guys, because even if you have 2 or 3 or 4 winning weeks taking these moneyline bets, all it takes is one bad week. Let's say that you win 3 weeks in a row and you won, let's say $300 every week, right? So you're up $900. Well, you just saw that this 1 week was a $971 week for 3 units, that is. So you won 3 weeks, you're up $900. You have one bad week where you go 0-3. You are literally now down for the season. So keep that in mind and keep a running tally of your wins and losses. Because if you're not marking down these wins and losses, you have no way to tell whether you're up or down or sideways or how far down or how far up you are. You're just kind of going off a feel, and I promise you it's not the most efficient way to do it. So moneyline bets, you can take them here and there if you want. Obviously I can't stop you, but that's why I don't like them. Alright, so let's move on. So I'm going to have one more note, and then we'll get into the Broncos information. And this note is more specific. This is on the 49ers. So the 49ers this year are actually going to be playing the 6th easiest passing schedule, meaning that the defenses they're playing against are going to be pretty easy to pass on, or easier than average. So whether it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance, and I know a lot of people are waiting for Trey Lance to come in, including myself. I'm not saying it's not going to happen this year, that he's not going to come in, but I'm saying it's probably going to take either a very strong coaching decision. Kyle Shanahan's going to come into the office one day and say, I want Trey Lance to start, or an injury. Because there's really not a spot in the schedule where you look at it and say, man, like, they're really going to struggle with like 2 or 3 teams in a row, and I could see that maybe being the switch. It just doesn't happen. If you look at their schedule and look at the passing defenses they play, for the most part, whatever quarterback is back there should have a decent time or should be set up for success, especially with the way that that team is created. So if you're really waiting on Trey Lance, like I said, those are the 2 things you have to wait for. If you're taking a quarterback late in fantasy, I don't know how great Jimmy G is going to be. I know that they do love to run the ball, obviously, but you may want to give him a look, especially if he's like your last pick and you're just trying to take like a backup quarterback or something, because the defenses he's playing are going to give up some good passing lanes. And don't forget, he still has guys like George Kittle, he still has Debo, he still has Ayuk. And if you think George Kittle is going to have a bunch of touchdowns this year, or if you think Ayuk is going to have a good year, it's gonna have to come from the quarterback. And if it's Jimmy G, it's Jimmy G. And so even if he doesn't put up 400 yards a game, I could see him, putting up 2 to 3 touchdowns a game, and that's in and of itself is gonna give you a pretty decent floor for fantasy, and it's gonna make him look pretty decent for real life football. But lastly, let's get into the Broncos. Sorry I made you guys wait this long, but a couple things I want to highlight on the Broncos. So one, like I said about the 49ers and their passing schedule, the Broncos have the absolute easiest passing schedule as far as defenses are concerned. So yes, there are a few tough games, here and there, but for the most part, their games are very pass friendly. Teams like the Giants and the Jaguars and the Cowboys and the Eagles, they don't have a lot back there. They don't have a lot to stop good passing attacks. And with a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, who's very conservative with the ball, he should have a statistically very good year. He might not be the number one fantasy guy, but he's going to give his wide receivers a lot of passes, a lot of on-target passes, good looks, and really set them up for success. So if you are maybe thinking about guys like Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, I would take them in your fantasy league. But if you're looking to maybe play some props on them even early in the season, you may want to do that before the rest of the league catches up to how good this team is going to be, but also how much Teddy loves individual players. And on that note, Teddy Bridgewater loves his slot receivers. He's always really targeted his slot receivers, and while that can change, just due to personnel, I have found throughout the years that a quarterback loves passing to certain positions. Regardless of that person, he's going to favor that position. For example, Phillip Rivers, he loved passing really to his number 1 receiver and number 2 receiver. He wasn't always the biggest check down guy. He did do it, obviously, because you have Austin Eckler back there, but he was not a huge check down guy unless the play specifically called for it. Sorry, you know what? I was getting them confused with this year's Colts quarterback. I apologize. Take that back. Not Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz. My apologies. Carson Wentz was never the biggest check down passer. He always relied on that number 1, number 2 receiver and his tight ends, whereas Phillip Rivers was the check down guy, and he did target guys like Austin Eckler. And when he went to the Colts, you saw him target guys like Nyheim Hines and even Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield. Carson Wentz was never a huge check down guy in Philly. He really relied on the tight end a lot with Zach Ertz, and then he didn't really target guys, even like Miles Sanders, out of the backfield. And I think you're going to see that continue to happen this year. Teddy Bridgewater has never really been a guy to push the ball down the field, and he's always relied on his slot receivers. So last year, he hit Curtis Samuel a lot. Great guy, great receiver, great guy to have on your fantasy team, great guy to bet on with props. This year, Jerry Jeudy's going to be taking that position, and I really see Jerry Jeudy having a great year based on the defenses he's going against, the fact that Bridgewater loves to target that position, and the fact that the team is just going to be consistently moving the chains, but not going super far deep. And the reason you don't really want them hitting these 80-yard bombs is because obviously there's less plays, and there's a lot more variance in his stats at that point. If there's only 20 plays a game, it's either going to be a boom or bust kind of thing. Whereas if there's 50 plays a game, then you have a little bit more consistency. So he's a good guy to have not only on your fantasy roster, but also to maybe bet on just throughout the season as the lineups, kind of give you some spots there to take. I will say, though, Pat Shurmur, their offensive coordinator, has never really been an aggressive guy. He doesn't really like to pass the ball very much. Even when he was with the Giants, he wasn't a big, pass heavy guy. So that's the only thing that maybe gives me some concern about this team. But I think that their schedule really sets them up pretty well, and I think that their players happen to complement each other very well, whether that's Teddy Bridgewater and Jerry Jeudy, or Teddy Bridgewater and Javonte Williams. They just kind of all play off of each other really, really well, and I think it's going to lead them to a good year. Secondly, though, as far as who they actually play the 25th toughest offensive schedule. And by that I mean the offenses they're going against are not very high powered. They should look very good on defense. They are a good defense in general, just on paper, and in the past few years they've been a good defense. Vic Fangio is a defensive minded guy. But this year they should play an even easier schedule as far as their defense is concerned, so their defense should look that much better. So if you're taking them in DFS, if you're taking them in fantasy, if you're taking them any sort of props like sack props, interception props, anything, this is the team to look at. They have an easy schedule, and they are already a high power or very talented defense with a coach who wants to put a lot of pressure on his defense. He wants his defense to really carry the team. So look at that. And on that note, let me also just bring up again Javonte Williams. So just to kind of recap here, a great defense going against an easy schedule with a decent offense, above average offense, playing against, also against an easier schedule. What does that bring to mind? Well, it should bring to mind a lot of ball possession kind of games. A lot of, we know we can stop their offense, we just need to not make mistakes kind of mentalities. And what lends itself to that mentality? Running the ball. Javonte Williams is the better between the tackles runner, with besides him and Melvin Gordon. And Javonte Williams is really the future there. Melvin Gordon is older, he costs more, and I believe this is, if not his last year, one of his last years on contract with them. Javonte Williams should be their guy. He should be the one that gets, maybe not at the beginning of the season, but he should be the guy who gets the better stats by the end of the season. So look for Javonte Williams. And the reason I'm bringing all this up, I know I keep mentioning fantasy. It's not so much to go get him in your fantasy team or to draft him this weekend with your fantasy team, but it's just as much, I should say, a tip I want to give you, because what's going to happen is that this marketplace, the betting marketplace we're in, is not looking at the Broncos right now. Nobody's really talking about this team. And so if you were going to bet them, right now is the time to bet them. Bet them against the Giants. Bet them against the Jaguars. Even against the Jets when they come up. Because after those three teams, assuming they go 3-0 or even 2-1, the media is going to be on this team. People's eyes will be on the Broncos. And at that point, you've missed the boat. The numbers are going to go against you. The lines are going to adjust. Line makers are going to adjust. So anything you want to do with this team right now, I just want to bring it to your attention now to make sure you jump on these boats before they leave, before everybody gets on them, and it's no longer cost efficient. So again, guys, I know all of these videos, I should say, are being longer videos, and hopefully they will get shorter as we just start giving straight picks. But today I think was very informative. Hopefully you learned something here, and hopefully you'll join me with betting the Broncos. I have not only their win total over, I have them to win the first game. I have them to keep the score under for the first game against the Giants. I believe it's under 42. And so a lot of these bets are already bets that I put out there. But again, I just want to let you know why, and to maybe get on this Broncos boat as soon as possible. Thank you again, guys. Good luck out there, and I'll see you again soon.